Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. It's a pleasure to follow the Honourable Member for Sheffield South East and to co-sponsor this debate with the Honourable Member for Oxford West and Abingdon. Homelessness touches every part of the UK, and we in this place need look no further than the entrance to Parliament, where tragically a Portuguese man died just 2 weeks ago. Figures released this year show an increase in rough sleeping of 169% since 2010, which means on any one night more than 4,000 people are sleeping on our streets. While shocking, these figures don't show the true scale of the problem. When we think of homelessness, we imagine people sleeping in doorways, underpasses or park benches. But there is another type of homelessness, which is people living in temporary accommodation. In March last year, there were an estimated 77,000 families, including 120,000 children, living without a place to call home. These are people living in hostels and bed and breakfasts. They are not sleeping on the streets, but they are without a home. And there are countless others that we don't hear about, the hidden homeless, without a home and out of sight. I recently met a constituent, a single mother of 3 who works part-time. Her tenancy agreement ended after her landlady wanted to move back into her house. But when she tried to find another home, she discovered she couldn't afford anywhere to rent. The rental market had moved away from her reach. Chichester District Council offered to put her up in a B&B 20 minutes away, but as a mother she knew the destabilising effect this would have on her children, and long distances would make the school run a challenge and expensive. Instead, she's had to split her family, 2 children staying with her mother while she and her youngest are with her grandmother. And this decision means her children could stay at their respective schools, unlike many others in a temporary accommodation who miss an average of 55 days of school. And this story is not uncommon, with the termination of private sector tenancy agreements now the biggest single driver of homelessness. Successive governments have failed to build adequate quantities of housing and the right type of housing. The demand-supply ratio has forced up rents and house prices, especially around the South East. Across England, rents have increased by 3 times earnings, and in Chichester, the average rent for a 2-bed flat is now £944 a month. For many on lower incomes, inexpensive areas, there is a likelihood of being priced out of the market and, without family help, becoming homeless. To tackle this, we know we need to build more homes, and I'm pleased the Government has announced a raft of policies to address this and has put house building at the top of its agenda. The multi-pronged approach, I believe, is the right one, with forthcoming changes to planning laws bringing tougher consequences where planned homes aren't being built. For too long, developers have acquired planning permission and enjoyed watching the land value go up whilst failing to lay a single brick. And this is just one of the measures being put in place. Of course, investment is key. The £1.5 billion Home Building Fund and £2.5 billion increase to the Housing Infrastructure Fund will go a long way to ensure houses are being built in areas where there is great need. And I'm sure we all welcome the further investment in the affordable home programme to the tune of £2 billion, meaning the programme expenditure will reach £9 billion by 2021. I will give way.
My honourable friend is surely right about the importance of a long-term solution in providing more affordable housing, including in our area of West Sussex. But would she agree with me that there is also an important role for schemes such as emergency hosting for young people who become homeless that can be provided by volunteers? And I would mention the brilliant DePaul Night Stop service. I declare an interest. My partner works for DePaul, which provides such a scheme, but only in half the local authorities in England.
Very good point. Here.
And I'm familiar with the scheme. It is a fantastic scheme, and we do need to be more innovative to solve this problem. With high numbers of people seeking permanent homes, these house building measures are a step in the right direction. However, building homes does take time, so these kind of schemes are helpful when many people's needs are urgent. The country's faced similar situations throughout its history. In post-war Britain, when the nation was struggling to house its people, my own grandparents, newly married with a baby daughter, found themselves homeless after both had served their country during the war. There were no facilities for families available at that time, so their only option was to stay in male-only and female-only hostels whilst their young daughter, my mum, went into an orphanage. Their plight was resolved when they were offered a prefabricated house to rent. My nan loved her prefab and always talked fondly of her first home. But it wasn't just a house, it was the key to her building a happy family life. And I would urge the government and local authorities to think innovatively to provide more social housing in high-rent areas, in high-price areas for rental quickly. Rough sleepers are amongst the most vulnerable people in society, and when... Yes, I did give that.
Well, member for giving me. Will she agree that actually one of the areas to look in is prefab housing again? I know they got a bad reputation, but actually it might be the way forward.
I think it's worth looking at. I've looked at some modern pre-factory-made homes, and they're actually lovely, spacious, and very warm. In fact, too warm, the one I went into. So rough sleepers have, this group we know have complex needs, and some are suffering from mental and physical health conditions. And this point is highlighted when we see rough sleepers are 9 times more likely to commit suicide than the general population. Now, in Chichester, we have a strong community spirit with people willing to go that extra mile to help one another. As an MP, I've had the privilege to meet and work with many of these people. Charities like Stone Pillow work alongside churches such as St Pancras with 19 rough sleepers that we have in Chichester, providing them with basic facilities like washing machines, a warm shower, meal and a bed for the night. Importantly, they help to build support plans and offer a guided route to help people get their life back on track. There is also a GP surgery running a needle exchange programme so those suffering addiction can take the right advice and help to begin to turn their life around. And through these programmes such as Change, Grow and Live, which are provided by the Council. I'm sure colleagues are aware addiction is more prevalent in those who sleep rough, and I'm hopeful that the Government's Housing First pilots being held in the North, which don't have strict preconditions attached to them, are successful, and that this model can be rolled out across the rest of the UK. The Homelessness Reduction Act will provide a shift in policy of homelessness by working on preventative measures, and we will all agree prevention is key. The policy will ensure everyone who is homeless or threatened with homelessness will be able to get advice and support from their local authority, and Chichester District Council has been given £113,400 extra funding to deliver the changes. I welcome the Government's commitment to halve rough sleepers by 2020 and remove rough sleeping from our society by 2027, and the recognition of the complex nature of homelessness, which cannot be tackled by more than one government department alone. But tonight there will be thousands of people on our streets in sub-zero temperatures, and the numbers of people in temporary accommodation is unsustainable and actually very expensive. We need to find an effective solution, and whilst the Government's housing policies will improve housing stock over time, we need to prioritise more social housing in high-rent areas, as at 30 to 50% of market rent, these are the only truly affordable option to those on modest incomes. Thank you.